Begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the roll call, everyone is present. Mr. Maris is in the restroom and Mr. Wagner is joining us via Zoom with it. I'd like to announce that the board met an exec session prior to this meeting tonight to discuss a student disciplinary matter and a contractual matter. And the board also met an exec session yesterday to get information about high school scheduling, to learn a little bit more how our students up there get placed in their schedules with it. First thing I'm going to ask for is approval for the agenda, but before we do that, we do have to make one change in the agenda. Go ahead.
9 summer employments. We have 2 employees who were accidentally listed under summer school and DSY. They are Sarah Claire and Aaron Buckwalter. They belong under summer school, not ESY, so they need to be removed from 9B.
Mrs. Hall, what was that again, please?
There are 2 names that appear under summer school and ESY. They should only be under summer school. And it's Sarah Claire and Aaron Buckwalter, so they just need to come off of ESY approvals. They're only doing 1 program, not 2.
So you need a motion to amend the agenda to reflect that change.
To remove those, yep,
Okay.
That would be to remove those 2 from,
9B.
from 9B and they're on.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended per Mrs. Hall.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Mrs. Eshelman, thank you. All those in favor?
In favor.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Motion carries 9-0. Next is approval of the minutes for the last board meeting held. I lost my spot, but the previous board meeting, the previous policy education personnel meeting held on April 17th, the last board meeting held April 8th, and the minutes for the Buildings and Grounds and Finance meeting held on April 29th.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Brady. Second, please.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
In favor.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Motion carries, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Berbersky for staff recognition.
Thank you and good evening. It's great to see everybody. Appreciate everyone coming out tonight. We're going to begin with some student recognition. So to start, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Saracini, our high school band instructor and director.
Good evening. First, we're going to have a performance from the high school brass quintet. This is a piece. It's a really cool piece. It just has a kind of disturbing name. It's called Turmoil, but they play it great. It's awesome. And if I could introduce them quickly, we have going from our left to right, sophomore Asher Vaughn, senior Spencer Stein, who's going to Kutztown next year, junior Rennick Lewis, senior Nick Shulkoff, and senior Jack Kamens, who are both going to Penn State main campus next year.
Thank you, and thank you to all of you for coming and performing. Great job performing. It was really great to see you come together as a group and just play really well. And I know that happens regularly from the instruction that you get in your classes and as a small group, but also as a larger band. So great work from all of you, and also Mr. Saracini, Mrs. Wilson, Mrs. P. I see you out there too. So a lot of great work that happens in our building. So thank you. Also, while you're here, we have another exciting announcement and recognition to make for one of our students, Sophia Wilson, who has been recognized for achievement in the Pennsylvania Music Educators Association PMEA All-State Concert Band for the oboe. Do you want to share anything?
Yeah, I'd love to. So Sophia is a junior at the high school this year and was selected to All-State Concert Band as an oboist. In order to make All-State, students have to go through rigorous competitive auditions against initially thousands of kids from around the state, and they have a district level and then a region level and then the All-State level. And she did amazingly well at all of those. In addition to playing the oboe in the ensembles at the high school, Sophia plays the viola, she plays the clarinet, she plays saxophone, and she plays the bassoon. And whatever else is laying around, and she just picks it up and starts playing. So she not only got selected for this honor, but was able to go to Erie, or not Erie, this year it was in the Poconos, and performed with the All-State Band, students from all over the state. It was an outstanding concert back in April, and we're really proud of all of her hard work. And yeah, she's just an awesome kid to work with. Yeah. Sophia Wilson.
Well, on behalf of the district, congratulations, and thank you for all your hard work and what you do every day, not only in school with academics, but also with all of the instruments that you play. And so congratulations, really proud of you. Great work. Glenn. Good picture. It'll be quick. Thank you. Congratulations. Also tonight, from the recognition standpoint, we have our student council here. So Lauren, our president of student council, we'll start with you.
All right, good evening. Today we'll just be doing a little recap of the entire school year and what we've been involved in. We also have our new members of officers that'll be taking over for next year, so I hope to introduce them towards the end. So starting us off, we have Sophia.
All right, so our first thing that we did this year was the freshman step-up day, which is new. That was on Wednesday, August 21st. We asked student council, as well as I think some sports teams, bands, and like cheerleaders helped welcome the freshmen to the school. We hope to like ease their nerves so that they weren't super anxious. We ran through their schedules and helped the students find their classes. We also did like trivia and like games. We passed out candy. So yeah, we donated also over 500 popsicles as like a treat for them to eat following their lunch period. And we will be hoping to help out with this again next year. Our next event that we did was brand new. It's our new school store, the Knights Nook. That's super exciting because we're selling a bunch of Hempfield merch like crew neck sweatshirts, and it's helping out with funding. We also are selling school supplies and gum. It's open to students and staff during our lunch periods, and all of student council helps to run it. We also have the point of sale system, so we can accept card, and other than just like cash, we can also accept card and debit. So yeah, it worked really well this year, and we're hoping to expand on it next year.
Okay, next we did back to school nights, which have been run the past few years, and we have officers and representatives that are around the school. They help, they kind of stand around in like the main areas and then help parents find their way. We also had the Knights Nook open, that way all the parents could see what we were selling. And then our next was the Fall Fling. This is another big event for us. We did this on Wednesday, September 25th. This was during school. And we were in charge of hosting the fun relay with the homecoming court members. And we used our brand new 7-foot tall feather flag, to host a parade of sports teams during the fling, which was very fun. I think everyone had a good time doing that one. We purchased these flags with the funds donated with Hempfield Foundation in our own account. And we also had soft pretzels for the entire school and staff members. And everyone seems to love this one. Everyone gets a good kick out of the soft pretzels.
This is done. Okay. Next we did the junior senior flag football game, formerly known as Powder Puff. We changed the name this year. This was our first year running it as a student council. We held this on Wednesday, September 25th at the stadium. We were responsible for ordering over 160 t-shirts for all the girls, selling the tickets at the gate, and hiring the refs and staff workers. And our two advisors, Dr. Huff and Mr. Vermani, were the ones that coached the teams. Also, during the junior senior flag football game, the homecoming king was crowned. After the junior senior flag football game, that Friday, we had the homecoming game against Penn Manor. And during that game, our queen, Juliana, was crowned.
Okay, so next we did the parade, which is a new tradition at Hempfield. This is our second time doing the parade. And this happened on Saturday, September 28th at 10 a.m. And we were able to get 5 fire stations and 2 police departments. More than 12 teams were signed up to walk the parade, and the feather flags were able to be shown. And we also showed our homecoming court, like all the people that were king and queen, or crowned king and queen. And we had food trucks at the end of the parade. Luckily, it didn't rain this year, so that it looked way better. And next year, it's gonna have way more improvements. Next, we did the food drive. And the food drive is collected on November 25th. And the fall collection, we collected about 2,200 pounds of food this year. In the fall, we are in charge of collecting the boxes and sorting all the food into boxes and then bringing them over to the Hempfield Food Pantry, which is at the Zion Lutheran Church. And in the spring, we helped organize the food pickup.
Next, we held the variety show. The auditions were held on Wednesday, November 8th in the Hackman Auditorium. Many singers, dancers, musicians, stand-up comedians, and others came to try out. This year, a crowd favorite was Noah playing the piano, harmonica, and singing Piano Man. A lot of time and effort from students to rehearse and perform in front of a large crowd and in front of a large audience happened. We moved the variety show date to the Saturday before Thanksgiving to avoid conflicts with musical auditions, so we had it on Saturday, November 23rd
at 7 p.m. in the Performing Arts Center. This date worked well the last 2 years, so we will be continuing this. The top acts were then featured in a special assembly at school on Tuesday, November 26. Next, we had cookies for custodians. This was organized the first 2 weeks of December. We are going to continue this new tradition. It's important to recognize the staff who takes such incredible care of our buildings and make the school a place we want to come to every day. We will decorate the facility dining room with a bunch of signs and encourage staff to bring in baked goods for the custodians to enjoy both at school and at home.
Another event we did, which is a recurring tradition, is curbside coffee. It occurred on December 20th at morning drop-off. Appreciation for bus drivers and all they do bring students to and from school every day. We purchased pastries, coffee, and orange juice to give out to all 50+ bus drivers who work every day to get all of the students at our school and from home. And another thing we have is the Black Knight Award, which is able to recognize and celebrate students who go above and beyond to build a positive and productive environment. And we do this so that we're able to say that we're able to see and appreciate everything that they do. They're nominated by teachers and staff for demonstrating Hempfield pride. $15 gift cards are given out from it, like a plethora of choices. We're able to nominate 56 students and give gift cards out and certificates to students who were honored by their teachers.
So we also did the winter formal again this year, and last year was the first time we did this, but to add to it this year and kind of differentiate it between homecoming, we decided to make it a Sadie's dance where the girls ask the guys out. And this was a huge success again, so we plan on continuing this. We still opened an hour early for the life skills and the buddy clubs, so that they would be able to have fun and enjoy the dance without any of their sensory issues getting in the way. We had almost 500 students in attendance for the dance, and there was a lot of positive feedback about the decorations, the DJ, and the whole experience overall. So we continue to keep improving and adding to that event. We also had the spring shipping, which is a Renaissance run event, but we like to help out with it. We did the Rochambeau competition last year, and we did it again this year. And then we also served the soft pretzels that we did in the fall, again, for the spring shipping. We were invited to a student council summit by Conestoga Valley this year, and it was such a nice event. This was the second conference summit that we've been to. We've been to one last year as well. And we really enjoyed the idea of exchanging ideas and being able to have these events. So we were hoping to hold one, which already got approved, next year at our school. So we're super excited for that. And then, as I mentioned in the beginning, we have 4 of our new officers for next year today. Ethan Albright is going to be our president. He wasn't able to join us tonight. Our vice president is Addison Horner. We have our secretary, Talia Lieber, and then our treasurer, again, is Sophia Deibler, and our social outreach is Apisha Chetri. So those are our officers for next year. They will be taking over everything, starting the new fall season. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for all the great work that all of you have done this year. You every year just keep raising the bar about what you do for the school and how you just bring such positivity to the culture. So a lot of great work. So thank you for all of that. Board members?
So I agree, and kudos to all of you for a jam-packed year and excellent job. I do want to pivot to a more serious topic. As I think many of you know, last year the student council was instrumental in helping the board develop the vaping policy and the new vaping policy. And this is the first year that the policy has been in effect. There seems to be, in recent weeks, renewed interest on the part of the community about how the policy is working. WGAL, I guess, did a little piece on it tonight. And I'd like to hear from you all, compared to a year ago, do you think the vaping situation at the high school is improving, getting worse, staying the same? What would be the student government perspective on that? And if you feel free to like.
Yeah.
just
So
jump in.
for me, I actually
And yeah.
Oh, yeah. For me, I actually am not in school most of the day. I have my first period and then I'm out basically the entire day. So it'd be better if my fellow peers talked on this. So I'll hand it off to Sophia.
As far as I know, I feel like it has stayed the same. I haven't really noticed
Same.
the same, yeah. I wouldn't say worse. I haven't noticed like major changes. I feel like people are still doing it, people are still getting in trouble, I don't think it's really changed too much. Does anyone else want to say anything? Yeah.
I would have to agree with Sophia. I feel it has stayed the same. Especially I feel the locker rooms are an area of interest to
Okay.
the people vaping. So that's my opinion on it.
What do you need from us? Does the policy need to be revisited? Is it just one of these things where, because I think as all of you know, it's now a 3 strikes and you're expelled type of policy. So it is, the policy has some teeth. Do we need to do more? Like, what do you need from the board?
I would say this is something that we would have to revisit as a club. And I don't think that that is something that we can just make a decision on right now at this time. So I would like to bring it up at hopefully some other meeting that we did have our last Win 5 meeting today, but I can definitely bring it up because our advisors have open wins coming up.
I would like to say that is exactly what I was going to say. I mean, you pretty much got put on the spot. I think, and I appreciate your willingness to speak up and not just sit there. So, but I do think it's something that you need to go back to the council and your principal and talk more about it and see if you do have some good suggestions for us to consider, and you can bring that back, or the new officers can bring it back, or you can pass it along, have it passed along to one of the assistant superintendents or superintendent or to your principal so that we get that information. Because we do value on issues like that, your observations and your input. I also have to say, maybe we don't always do what you think we should, but I do want you to know that we value your input and appreciate that. I also wanted to know, how many of you are seniors? Just one of you?
Lauren, can you share what your plans are for next year?
Yes, absolutely. So I will be going to Lock Haven University next year for the next 5 years. I was accepted to their accelerated 3+2 physician assistant program. So the 4 years undergraduate to get my bachelor's degree was cut down to 3 years, so it'll be a lot more intense. And then I'll move on to their PA program there.
Congratulations.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Well done.
And we look forward to seeing the rest of you next year as we're getting to know you all.
Okay, great.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so
very
much.
much.
Great work.
Thank you.
Renato, turn it back to you.
Moving on to residents' requests to speak to the board. The board provides a time for public comment for residents and taxpayers to bring their thoughts to the board, but it's not a time for exchange between the board administration and speaker. We ask that speakers refrain from identifying specific students, staff, or community members by name. Residents and taxpayers who are interested in making public comments must complete the electronic registration form prior to 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting. And we have one request to address the board.
Our only speaker this evening is Kaleb Best.
Good evening. Got it. I'll just do this. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I want to begin by expressing my deep disappointment with some of the comments that were made during last month's Finance Committee meeting. As a community, we should not be balancing our budget based on the funding that the state might give us next year or later this year. That's not responsible budgeting, it's wishful thinking. Even more troubling is the suggestion that we should balance the budget by cutting programs. That approach undermines the very mission of public education and harms the students that we're here to support. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet, they're essential services, supports, and opportunities that our children rely on every single day. Hempfield must develop and implement a long-term financial plan that addresses not just the needs of today, but also anticipates the challenges of tomorrow. Unfortunately, not prioritizing setting aside funds for the future needs has been a short-term approach and has left us without the financial flexibility that we need, especially with major building renovations and projects on the horizon. After the last meeting, I researched property tax values across our district. There are just under 18,700 properties in Hempfield, 2/3 of which are residential. If the board adopted the full 4.8% Act 1 increase, the middle 50% of all properties, not just residential, would see an increase of just $100 to $200 annually. In fact, over 86% of all properties in the district would see an increase of less than $300 per year. That's less than $25 per month. Some board members said that they were speaking for those without children in the district. While I know my conversations are anecdotal, the people I've spoken with, including many without kids in school, have told me they are willing to pay a little more to protect the quality of education in our community. Some of you also claim to speak for those in lower income households. However, I speak from personal experience. I was raised by a single mom who worked incredibly hard to make ends meet. When I asked her earlier today if she would have been okay with a $25 to $50 monthly increase if it helped support schools, she said in a heartbeat, anything for schools. Even a $200 increase, around $17 a month, wouldn't have been easy, but she would have supported it, knowing what was at stake. Well, just one example, I'm confident that many others in similar situations would say the same, because they see the value of public education and what Hempfield has to offer. This is more than just a single year. This is more than just this year's budget. Strong public schools raise property values, attract families, and help create an educated, skilled workforce, which helps benefit the economy for everyone. Strong schools benefit everyone, whether they have children in school or not, by making our community and property values stronger. When we underfund public education, everyone pays a price. And those consequences are real. If the state doesn't increase its support, we're not just facing recurring tax hikes, we're facing the loss of critical programs, larger class sizes, and a growing struggle to retain and recruit good teachers. That's why I strongly urge you to approve the resolution to the General Assembly tonight. It sends a strong, urgent message. The state needs to step up. But I also urge you to go further. Please reach out to our representatives. Make clear that we need sustainable, adequate funding. Push for long overdue charter school reform and insist the state increase its contributions to PSERS. According to the budget presentation 3 years ago, over 50% of our benefits costs are due to PSERS, which is 15% of the total budget. That burden cannot be ignored any longer. As our electorate representatives in this district, your voices carry weight in Harrisburg. Please use them. Speak up not only for our students and staff, but for every taxpayer who expects a stable, well-funded public education system. Help our legislators understand the reality that they have created, because unless something changes, 3 to 4.5% tax increases will become the norm. And that is not fair. That is not sustainable, and that's not how public education should be funded. Unfortunately, until Harrisburg makes changes, Hempfield must pick up the bill. I know our community is diverse, financially, generationally, politically, but I truly believe we share one goal: excellent schools that serve all children and strengthen our community. As such, I urge you to support an adequate tax increase to balance the budget without further cuts. Please don't let short-term discomfort get in the way of long-term progress. Let's choose responsibility over rhetoric, investment over austerity, and let's choose to lead, not just manage. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Boberski?
Thank you for the superintendent's report. From an update standpoint, just want to share, I know several of you were able to get to dance theater. that occurred recently. It was a great event, seeing more than 100 students involved in that event. And also, as we're getting closer to the end of the school year, we have a lot of events going on through the course of this month, not only at our building level, but also with some of our athletic teams continuing on into playoffs, which has been great to see. And I encourage you to go to the concerts, whether it's the elementaries, the middle schools, the high schools, all of them. Middle schools are at the middle school usually, but they're at the pack from the elementary on up this year, just from the size, which is great. As you know, graduation is June 3rd. So if you are planning to attend, please let us know tonight if possible, because we need to get that information back to those at the high school. We do have a rain date of June 4th, but we don't need that because we're going to still go with June 3rd. And then also at your seats tonight, you have the ballots for the IU. So that information is there. If you will please read through that, mark off your decision, and then get that back to Mrs. Rhodes so we can get it all back to the IU in a timely fashion. If you have questions about it, we certainly can answer those questions. The other piece that we have tonight is just Mrs. Hall has a few updates from a budget piece just to provide you. I do want to share before she does that, that as you know, last week I was up in Harrisburg visiting with representatives, senators, their staff, if they weren't available, talking about school funding, talking about cyber charter reform, talking about a lot of things connected back to education. Even if someone wasn't available, we had information that we were able to bring to them. I am really hoping there seems to be genuine consensus around cyber charter reform, that actually makes it across the finish line. As you know, from a cyber school standpoint, they're not held to the same standards that we are. And even though they get public school dollars and their results are not stellar, they just are not. So hopefully that will happen this year as part of the school code budget. But through our process, and also last Thursday, I was with other superintendents, meeting with Senator Malone as well, getting to connect with him, talking about school funding and some of the impacts here locally. So I encourage you to continue reaching out to our senators, our representatives, getting them on the phone or in person, talking about the importance of what needs to happen in Harrisburg with the state budget. All that said, I am getting more and more updates around some federal funds with regards to specifically Titles 2, 3, and 4. As a district, we talk a lot about title funds, particularly with Title I. Title I dollars provides additional literacy reading support for our students at the elementary level. When it comes to Titles 2, 3, and 4, it's all part of the big package of title funds. But Title 2 and 4, we roll right into Title I because of the supports that we have available for our students. And Title 3 are funds for our English learners. I am hearing more conversations than I care to hear, unfortunately, that Titles 2, 3, and 4 are likely to go away for the upcoming school year. Our budget will have to be passed prior to that, so we will not know for sure. But for us, that's about another $300,000. We do use those funds for positions within the budget. Nothing is final, so we don't know where ultimately this is going to land. We probably won't know until the early fall with regards to those dollars, because that's coming out of DC. But we did hear when I was up in Harrisburg that there is no way for Pennsylvania to cover the loss of federal funds coming to schools. They don't have the dollars to expend. So it is going to be a lot of kind of turmoil. We heard the song earlier to kind of have to experience of the uncertainty, but we aren't going to have that information. So I can't say to plan for it or you put it in the budget or not put it in the budget at this point. It has been approved. Whether or not it continues, we don't know. And so as we work through things, we'll keep you updated, but that does have the potential to impact our budget for next school year should those dollars not come to fruition. It's not just the federal dollars this is happening to, it's other areas of our budget. There are aspects in food service, some other areas that we are hoping things will continue, but the dollars promised and approved may not come to fruition. So we're going to have to wait and see as we work through that. That said, Mrs. Hall does have a few other updates just to talk about from a budget standpoint for you tonight.
So tonight on the agenda, there's a motion to approve a resolution to adopt a proposed final budget and to authorize us to advertise for the final budget, which will be approved in June. Once you approve the proposed final budget, it'll be made available for public inspection. And then the advertisement will go out 10 days prior, at least 10 days prior to the June meeting where it will be adopted. Mr. Graham, if you can open the presentation. Just a few quick things because we did receive our certified homestead farmstead files, so you can see what that looks like. If you go to the first one, this is just going to show you where we ended up with the budget, which is substantially the same as it was at the committee meeting. We made a few tweaks here and there, but we're still showing a shortfall, which this is with a 4% tax increase factored in. Then the shortfall will come out of the unassigned fund balance. So this is what our proposed final budget is filed in the 2028 form of PDE. If you go to the next slide. So we received our certified homestead farmstead exclusion information. It is increased from this year or from last year. And we had some carryover as we do often from year to year. And the estimated tax relief per homestead farmstead is $226.98, which includes that prior year carryover. So I just want to show you how that relates to the potential tax increases. Mr. Graham, if you can go to the next slide. It's going to be a little difficult to see, but so over last year, the homestead farmstead relief is $30 more. So I just wanted to lay that against what the increase would be. If it was a 1% tax increase, it's a $36 increase on the average median assessed house. But when you take the additional 30 into consideration, the net effect is 6. So I just wanted to share that while there is likely to be a tax increase, we are lucky that we have additional homestead farmstead relief, which will offset some portion of that. So that was just information that I received since the committee meeting that I wanted to share here tonight. That's really it. Yep.
So Mrs. Hall, I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, because this appears to be a pretty dramatic change from what we saw at the finance meeting a couple of weeks ago. You're saying with no flat state funding and no tax increase, we're only looking at a $770,000.
No, I said that includes a 4% tax increase.
I'm sorry?
That includes a 4% tax
It
increase.
says, and no tax increase.
Oh, sorry, I did not update the heading.
Okay, well.
I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I did these at the end of the day.
Yes.
We just got the information.
Okay, sort of a big
My bad.
difference.
Yep.
So a 4% tax increase leaves us with a deficit of $770,000.
Correct.
Okay, what you very helpfully sent along the revised financing projections from Raymond James. How does that translate to the future borrowing authority on that chart? If we dial back on the bond issues for the high school, i.e. we value engineer the high school by 5%, 10%, how does that impact the remaining taxing authority on that helpful chart that you have?
So then, I mean, it would decrease it depending on which scenario you went with. I did not factor either of those in because I hadn't been given direction to do so. But if you look at, we're 181 this year for millage built-in for the 210 or 211. If you take one of the other charts, you can just reduce it by that much. I can pull them up. I haven't committed those to memory.
I think it's like 40 or 50.
Yeah, I'd have to.
Point
look.
4.5, something like that.
Well, okay,
Right.
so 40 to 50 basis points.
Right.
Okay.
But I also think, and correct me if I'm wrong on that, Mrs. Hall, when you pull it up, when you look at the end of it, we still have to come up with additional dollars because there was not enough from a profit standpoint to outweigh kind of that reduction, if you will, because I think everything still came up as a deficit in the long run.
Like in the year 5 or 6, that we actually were at a greater deficit by taking out less money than.
Right.
Was I interpreting that correctly?
Yeah, because I think we wouldn't have necessarily had enough built in to recoup those costs. It looked like there was a deficit at the end. We'd have to come up with additional dollars.
We would, yeah.
Basically at the end of the day to cover that. Yep.
So the 770,000, that doesn't include the additional 300,000 we might lose. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. But we also remember that there's a good chance we'll get 700,000 from the state. We talked about last week.
Hopefully.
Okay. I think it's more than wishful thinking. There's a good chance, correct?
I'm hopeful based on conversations, but I'm not.
Okay.
I don't have a crystal ball and I'm not the one approving in Harrisburg. I'm hearing that, yes, people believe that that needs to be it was basically an unsigned agreement, if you will, from the court case, which is why they ended up not back in court from the constitutionality side of things. So yes, I'm hearing from individuals that I'm talking to in Harrisburg that there's a recognition for that, but there has to be a majority in the House and the Senate and then the governor's approval in order to make that happen.
If you were going to make a guess, you were going to predict in your crystal ball, what would you say the chance that is going to happen?
If I'm going off of what the chairs of the House Education Committee told me, then I feel really good. But I also know that between the House and the Senate, there's a lot of back and forth on what they're going to agree to or not agree to. And I do think it will pass the House. I don't know about the Senate because of other competing priorities. And if you recall from the Commission on School Funding, there were two reports. There was a majority report and a minority report. And in a sense, you heard different things in terms of how schools should be funded. And so, yes, I am very hopeful, but it's not a gamble or a bet I'm willing to take at this point, just given the current.
50,
I'm not willing to make it.
Okay.
And at the same time, dealing with federal cuts that are
Right.
coming up as well, I think it's very weird to think of it like to bank on this, but then something else would come up. You know what I mean? There's so many moving parts.
Yeah, I
that
mean,
just look at that and say, hey, we're probably going to get that when there's other factors in play, I think is short-sighted.
right. What I've heard directly from individuals in Harrisburg is as follows. When the governor projected or put forth his budget, and the allocations for education were not as high as people thought they would be, that was from a strategic standpoint, because there's other areas that are up a little higher than people expected. So what is being shared is that they think that is kind of the bargaining chip for people to recognize the education piece has to go up, but how much it goes up is going to be the question. I don't think you'll get anybody in Harrisburg that's going to answer that question for you.
I asked this question at the Budget Finance Committee meeting. We talked about the title funds, but again, the biggest part that we get from the state, which ultimately gets from the federal government, is IDEA money, our special education money. And have you heard anything about, even though it's legally
Yeah.
required, that does not necessarily mean.
I'm hearing that Title I and IDEA funds, in a sense, would be most likely flat funded. So you can't anticipate an increase there. But the Title I funds, in combination with Titles II, III, and IV, for us is about $1.2, $1.3 million. So we lose 300,000 of that.
That's a big
deal.
Yeah. And that even reflects in the state budget then how much they could fund for special ed costs.
It was very clear, made very clear to me that we cannot count on the state to offset the loss of any federal dollars, because they do not have, on a larger scale, enough dollars to cover all of those losses. So,
And at the same time, they have to make up because of cuts like in Medicaid and social services that are being cut. They have to figure out how to fund that additionally. So the money, it's probably not going to be there now or in the future. Mr. Keeter?
No, so if the federal, you said Title II and III?
2, 3, and 4,
Okay, so if that money goes away, that's how much of a hit? to
about
budget?
$300,000.
300,000, and is that directly tied to programs that could be curtailed or positions that could be furloughed?
Positions, and services, after school tutoring,
Pardon me?
after school tutoring, as well as positions,
Okay,
which directly impact students.
okay. Thank you.
Mrs. Hall, I know this is maybe a difficult question, but since you've been here, how have we done end of budget? Are we usually ahead? Are we usually behind? You give us a ballpark how close we've been.
So last year we were incredibly close. It was almost a break even. In the few years prior, we actually did much better because we had unanticipated interest income because the interest rates were so high.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of EIT income. their earned income tax. So there was things that we weren't expecting that were on the revenue side
Understood.
that we did really well with.
So other than that unusual circumstance, we've been cutting it pretty close then, coming out a little ahead, a little behind.
We were ahead for those years, and then this last year, we were almost break even, like probably the closest I've seen a budget.
Okay, and other than that,
I could.
I mean, I realize the $150 million budget, so a few $100,000 here or there is still a pretty good prediction, right?
I'm sorry, what was,
So $150 million budget,
yes.
if you're within a few $100,000, that's pretty good. And you're saying we've been doing that well, or?
We did the last year. The prior years, we did have a surplus due to some economic factors that we didn't predict.
And prior to those years, did we have, okay.
Couldn't speak to
So I
it.
know we had some surpluses back when I was
We
on
very
the
well
board
could.
earlier.
I do have one more just for the board to realize this, maybe if those positions you talk about with title going away, these are our reading specialists, if I remember correctly from the presentation I saw, and these are helping the kids directly with their reading skills and things that we all know kids, they're not reading by third grade, school is, or by the end of third grade, if they're not reading on level, it becomes very difficult when they get through. But that's what some of that funding, if I remember correctly, goes through when Dr. Danbridge presented.
Yeah, and we flat funded the federal dollars. So from a budget standpoint, we anticipate the flat funding because we've always done that. And so we'll continue with the programming, and we have to wait and see what happens.
So just the other thing to remember is just because that money from the federal government goes away doesn't mean that those services go away.
Correct.
Right?
Right, yeah.
It's just a different pot of money. So I don't want anybody to think that if this federal money goes away, those services go away, because that's not even on the table at this point, because that all goes through the budget. There's things that can be done differently, right? Like, so there's, when you have a $150 million budget, you have a lot of areas, pots of money, right? So you have to look at all those pots.
Yeah, but it comes from another pot, is what you're saying.
Correct, correct.
But Mr. Garber, you make a good point, but it has to come from somewhere.
Absolutely.
We wouldn't necessarily be furloughing reading specialists.
Doesn't necessarily-
Like we would have to furlough someone.
Not necessarily. There's a lot
Well,
of
I
different
mean-
pots, right? There's a lot of different pots that aren't necessarily tied to personnel.
Okay, but that is,
Simple.
you know.
There aren't too many we have control over, though.
So we have control about 30% of it.
Percent of the whole
Mhm.
pot.
So
I don't
when-
think we're, oh, go ahead, Mr.
I was
Garber.
just to say 300,000 is not even close to 1% of our budget, so.
Mr. Bremersky and Mrs. Hall, do we have any idea when the state budget is going to be passed? And is the 700,000 that we could get extra, is that part of that decision, or could that come in earlier?
That is part of the budget process in Harrisburg.
Okay.
By law, it is required to be passed by the end of June. However, historically, it is not. It usually happens in July, August, and in some cases into the fall.
What do we think it's going to be this year?
I would hope that it's by the time before we settle our budget, which is never the case, which is another thing to talk about with legislatures, that we have to pass a budget without knowing what we get from the state. So the budget process needs to be revised. But in this case, I anticipate another long budget season. So I would expect it to go past June, which has been the historical trend.
So unlikely it'll be settled before we have to settle our budget.
I would think so. That's been past practice.
And in the past, haven't we not had to, when they were late approving a budget, we've had to use some of our reserve funds in order to meet, or no?
We haven't had to because we have such a good tax collection rate. So
Because
we
they
get
come
so
in
much of it
early.
up front. So other districts would have, but
Yeah.
we were fortunate not to be in that position.
And if I'm correct, you said that the cyber schools under reform as well. And if we can get the legislature to pass that would be extra dollars as
Yeah.
well for us, correct?
So the proposed rate was $8,000 per student. That would save us about $1 million.
So that's something we need to go after our legislators as well.
Absolutely.
To get passed.
Yeah.
So point of clarity, is this where we're going to continue the budget discussion? And are we trying to accomplish anything as part of this? Or are we holding until later in the later in the finance section, or should we just
So
continue
this
this?
is just informational that I wanted to pass
Okay.
along the homestead farmstead and how that would affect the average taxpayer. All you're approving tonight is a preliminary final
Yeah,
budget. We
correct.
still have the May committee meeting
Yes.
to discuss it because we'll put the final one on the June regular meeting.
Yeah. I have a few comments, but I'll try not to belabor this any longer because I know we're going to have a healthy discussion about this later. But I would agree with Mr. Garber. As close as I am to these finances, I don't believe the word furlough needs to be anywhere connected with any of these discussions, first of all. I do believe, though, if fundamental changes to our expenses aren't handled strategically starting today, which don't include using an axe to deal with it, you will get to a place in the future in this district after I'm probably no longer here where there will be significant issues. Whenever you address financials, you have to look at two things, and this is basic finance, your expenses and your revenue. We have control over the revenue. The district administration and the team and this board, particularly this board, has a lot of control over the expenses by setting direction. And I would expect in the future, if we're going to take dollars which were entrusted from the community in our hands, which we all take that job very seriously, we've been given those dollars and entrusted with those dollars, that my expectation, and I'll speak for myself, is that when I'm making decisions financially, I'm doing that on behalf of the taxpayers. They've entrusted me with those dollars. In good faith, the only way I can take more money from someone is if I believe that that money is being used to them wisely and used in the best manner. And I believe wholeheartedly that this district has a lot of opportunities that do not affect education and actually will improve it in the long run. And those dollars that we need for certain things will be there. But in good faith, if I'm giving my dollars as an example to an investor, and that investor is squandering those dollars, am I going to continue to give them more? I think each of us need to ask ourselves that question. And it's no different than us taking tax dollars and not using them wisely. I feel a deep sense of responsibility around that. I am willing to raise taxes only if I believe that this district is using them to the best of their ability and wisely. So I would challenge this board to not just focus on the tax rate, but going into this next year, put a renewed focus on some areas where there's opportunity that don't involve furloughs, don't involve decreasing our educational experience, but involve trimming the fat, the things that don't have an impact long-term on our education process and create more efficiencies. And that's all I have to say around this. I think we'll have a healthier discussion at the finance meeting related to this, but I think it's important for each of us to dig deep and realize we've been entrusted with these tax dollars, and it's no joke when we make our decision. And you can't just look at taxing people more and more and taking more unless you're willing to also look at the spend side.
Anything else, Mr. Bowerski?
Nope, just wanted to provide that information as an update, and also that you have the calendar of events. But again, if you are interested in attending graduation, if you could let Mrs. Rhodes or myself know tonight, that would be great. If not, by Friday, latest.
Okay, thank
So
you.
Tonight. If
Anyone like to let her know now before? Okay, moving on, President's report, nothing to report. Going on to representative and adjunct reports, Lancaster County Career and Technology Center, Mr. Keener.
Thank you, Mr. Donato. The Joint Operating Committee met on April 24th at Brownstown, and I'm delighted to report that several Hempfield students were recognized. Elijah Ali, a student in the Computer Networking and Security Program, was recognized as a Student of the Month at Brownstown. And 3 of our students earned first place honors in the Skills USA competition and will be traveling to Atlanta June 23rd to 27th to compete in the Skills USA national competition. Those students are Cheyenne Hagan in painting interior finishes in the painting and decorating contest, Luke Lippert in the sheet metal competition under metal fabrication, and Maddie Houch in the EMT technician competition at the Protective Services Academy. And Mrs. Rhodes, I have all that if you need it later for the minutes. The next JOC meeting will be on May 22nd at Mount Joy.
Okay, any questions? Thank you, Mr. Keener. IU 13.
Nothing new to report. We have our monthly meeting actually tomorrow. We've traditionally met the last couple of years during graduation, but they've moved it up, so I get to attend the May meeting.
Okay, and again, don't forget to fill out the ballots which relate to that.
Is there any recommendation regarding the ballot? None.
What's that?
No recommendations regarding this ballot?
No, I interact with these individuals. They're all good people, smart decisions, you know, no
Okay.
people that don't have good character or behave badly or whatever you.
You're recommending it.
I'm recommending all of them, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Maris. Hempfield Rec Center, Mrs. Brady.
Nothing new other than looking forward to our finance and facilities meeting next Tuesday morning.
Okay.
Mr. Wagner, I don't know if you have anything other?
I do not. Thank you.
Is Pat still on?
Yep, I'm here. I do not. I'm good to go. Thank you. Hello.
There you go.
Anything for Hempfield Rec from you, Mr. Wagner?
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, safety and security, Mr. Garber.
Nothing new to report.
Okay, PSBA, Mrs. Eshelman.
Just that Grant and I are going to be delegates for the legislative PSBA in the fall, and that there's one more spot open for that, and that will be voted on in, I believe, a June meeting.
Okay, thank you. Standing committees, buildings and grounds.
Yeah, our last buildings and grounds, we had principal of Mountville and some others talk about the ongoing installation of the outdoor classroom project. Seems to be going very well. I think we're moving ahead, and we appreciate all the work that they've done. KCBA also talked to us along with Fidavia and ELA, gave an update on the proposed high school project, which included the geotechnical report and information on athletic fields. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Finance, Mr. Wakaman.
We had a healthy discussion about the budget. I'm not going to go back there, but on May 13th today, we'll adopt a resolution that does not lock us into anything, but allows us to display and advertise the final budget. And then obviously, as Mrs. Hall said, on June 10th, we'll adopt the final budget. And so we'll have some healthy discussion at the next finance meeting regarding what that percent is going to be. Thank you. Concludes my report.
Thank you. Education and program. Mr. Keener.
Yes.
So is it your intention that today's vote on the preliminary budget is, for lack of a better term, a placeholder?
Semantics.
Pardon
Yes. Placeholder semantics,
Okay, and
requirement.
substantive discussion? point.
Yes, it doesn't set the rate.
Well, I know that, but in previous years, we've not revisited it after the preliminary. So we will be having continued discussions.
Yeah, we will need to unless we choose to do that tonight, which we could. That was why I asked that question earlier. Were we going down the road of having that discussion tonight, or did we want to wait till the finance committee meeting to finish it? I don't have a strong feeling one way or another. I just know we need to meet these deadlines.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Okay. Education and programs.
At our last meeting, we received an update from about wit and wisdom, the data about the assessments, and also teachers shared with us their experiences, which the report is, it's very positive. The students are enjoying it and the teachers are enjoying it, and it's going well. We also received a presentation on AI, and the administrators who presented that have been going to conferences and talking about it, and they will be giving us more information as we look to develop a policy regarding the use of AI. Also, we had a report on, to review for us the pathways to graduation, the 5 pathways to graduation and high school courses. And that presentation has prompted some other discussions, and we will continue those discussions in our next meeting, which is actually Thursday at 5 o'clock in this room. And if
Okay.
you need any more information, the minutes are posted in,
Thank you, Mrs.
online,
Johnson.
so.
Policy, Personnel, and Legal, Mr. Keener.
Thank you, Mr. Donato. The policy personnel and legal also met on April 17th. We advanced five policies for first reading. Several second read policies will be rolled over from the previous meeting, and we will be retiring 1 policy, all under other action items this evening.
Thank you. And we'll move on to the action items, personnel action items. There's 2 separate votes in this. First is approval of personnel action items 9A 1 through 9 as amended with the 2 individuals being moved from the year-round summer school program.
Motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Brady.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any questions, discussions? Okay, all those in favor?
In favor.
Thank you. Motion carries 9-0. Next is B. This is a memorandum of understanding with HEA for a certain issue, personnel issue. And so I need a motion to approve that, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Keith.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Brady. Any discussion? Okay, all those,
Mr. Donato, I'd like to add that it is certainly my belief, and I believe the belief of most, if not all of the board, that the administration handled this grievance properly, and that at no point did the administration violate any terms of the collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah, I would like to second that, Mr. Keener, and that the administration handled this very well. And it did not violate any of the terms of the contract. But that being said, I also didn't agree where we landed with this. So when you said the word most of the board, you were correct.
anyone else? Okay, all those in favor? Mr.
In
Wagner?
favor. In favor. Thank you.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries 8-1. There's no buildings and grounds action items, so we'll go on to financial action items, which is approval for action items B through I first. Which is actually the whole thing. Which we will also be doing, guess, again, the resolution to post the final budget, but we will have more discussion at the finance meeting. This is not the set thing. It's a legal requirement of the school district to do, needs to do this. So we could pass some sort of budget legally in June.
So,
So you said A, what were
B.
the letters again?
B through I.
I can't hear you,
B
Mr.
through I,
Johnston.
that's all.
B.
Yep.
Okay. So moved?
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I'd just like to make a statement regarding the budget, that the proposed budget as proposed, though it is a placeholder, I do want to make clear that that 4.0 budget as a placeholder is the same budget as the 4.8, but relying on using our cash reserves to meet the balance, which I am not in favor of, but I want to make it clear that that's how it's written, if I'm correct. Am I correct? Yes.
I'd like to be clear, I'm also not in favor of using our cash reserves long-term, but I would be in favor of considering that this year with a concerted effort from this board to reduce expenses. And there is opportunity to do that effectively and appropriately.
and I would like to also state, I plan to vote in favor of this as a placeholder I will ultimately likely not be voting for this budget if it comes back in exactly this form. But as a placeholder for this evening purposes, I'm fine with it.
Are we talking about budget now?
No.
Are we gonna
we're-
get to it later?
No.
We're gonna
the
get to it
budget-
later.
This is just to pass
Okay,
the preliminary.
we're gonna do it
budget
at the next,
At the
but-
finance
Yeah.
meeting, buildings and grounds and finance at the end of the month.
This is just to hit the posting requirement.
understood.
The legal requirement that we have to do.
I do want to point out, we have an unassigned fund balance of 11.3 million. So if that 700,000 doesn't come in and we have to use that, it's not gigantic, like 5% of that balance. On top of it, I think we're forgetting that part of that tax increase is 1.81% is for the high school. So that's already project. That's already above what we would normally do to balance the budget. So it's kind of an encumbrance on top of what we would normally ask the taxpayers to pay. So to have any extra money after that is, I think, putting too much on our taxpayers. They're already paying 1.81%, which I think is 1.7 million, which we wouldn't normally do if we weren't going into that project.
Correct. That's our commitment to the high school.
Absolutely, and I
that's our
agree with
commitment to
that.
the high
But remember, that's in addition to what we would normally tax our taxpayers. That's in addition. And I think we're forgetting when we look at the 4 or 4.8, that 1.81 is over and above what we would normally ask from our taxpayers. However, I think it's the right way to do it. I think we're forgetting that's an additional tax increase, which is going to occur last year, it's going to occur this year, and assuming the project goes through, total of 5 years. I still think it's the best way to do it. You know, Grant, you talked about, can we reduce that a little bit? But in the long term, I think it makes financial sense and is less encumbrance on our taxpayers to do it that way.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I guess, again, this is the past, go.
Yeah, I understand. It's a placeholder. I just want to also say, as other members of the board have said, this is not the budget I will be voting for.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? All those in favor?
In favor.
Okay, I believe that was all 9, so motion carries 9-0. And then we're going to move on to other action items, approvals for other action items, B through O, which I believe is everything. Oh, no, we have 2 others, down to the end, 2 other ones in there. Through O.
Mr.
Oh.
Donato, point of order, can we just say, I'm sorry, B through Q except P. I don't know if anyone really wants to vote on Q separately.
It will help us from a minute standpoint to be able to provide the IU what they need, which is why
Okay.
we have that separate. So.
Never mind.
Yeah, okay, so can I have a motion to approve B through O?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr.
Second.
Peters, second. Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
In favor.
Thank you. Motion carries 9-0. P we'll do separately. That's the resolution that we talked about previously to go to the General Assembly to hopefully get more funding for schools in general.
Motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Brady.
Second.
Thank you. Mrs. Eshelman, discussion? Mr. Gates?
We discussed a number of revisions to this, and maybe my memory's not good, but I don't know that those revisions are in here.
Yeah, I couldn't
They are.
remember, and that was the question I had, Mr. Keener. I was fine with this if we had those revisions in it.
But this is much more specific than I remember discussing at the last meeting. I think there was a consensus around a general resolution of support, but devoid of specific budget numbers, especially when our own budget process is still fluid. I would be happy to support a motion to table this and we can revisit it once our own budget process is concluded.
Can somebody let us know if the changes were made?
There were
according-
changes made, and as I recall, the request for the changes was to make the statements, I believe it was under scrolling down through here, one of the furthermores, to make it more, not specific as to what it could be used for, but that what it would be used for, but to use more generalized terms like what it potentially could be used for.
Versus
So the-
would.
That's
the-
what I was
the
asked to make it change to.
Taken out, and
Yep.
it was made potential and could
Right.
as example language, but not locking us into those things. That's what I recall the conversation being.
That is correct. Getting out of the specifics and potentially or could be used for. And then the other change that was made was based on the cyber charter tuition, where it talked about the result in the annual net savings of approximately $1 million for the Hempfield School District, and was changed to based on our current enrollment number / budget. And that was what was talked about as well. So those changes were made as requested.
Was that number 4 under?
Cyber charter, yes.
Just a point of clarity. Under number 4, establish a statewide based cyber charter tuition rate of 8,000 per student. I thought I heard 1,000, but maybe I misunderstood you, Mr. Burmercy.
It was
Oh, it was 8.
8,000.
Okay, I thought you said 1,000 earlier,
yep.
which I thought that
Yep.
seemed very
Yep.
low, but
Yep, 8,000 is
Okay.
what was proposed at the
Okay.
state from the governor. And that would save us about $1 million. And
Okay.
what was
I just-
asked in the last meeting was just that number can fluctuate. So we wanted to add based on our current enrollment numbers and budget.
okay, that's fair. I just wanted to make sure I heard you wrong the
Yep.
first time. Thank you.
I have another concern, and if this was in here before, I apologize for not seeing it. I, for one, am not 100% sure of the entirety of the 25-26 budget proposal as it relates to public education. And I can't vote in favor of something that I'm not familiar with. That said, I'm 100% supportive of the rest of it, and that part that says, urge the General Assembly to pass budgets that guarantee a thorough and efficient system of public education, which is our constitutional duty.
Didn't that language come from the ruling?
Pardon me?
The thorough and efficient system of public education came from the ruling, which is
Correct.
why that
Oh,
was.
no, it's also in the Constitution.
Yeah, so what's the issue with it, I guess?
The issue is with the first part of that, the first part of it that says that we support the 25-26 budget proposal as it relates to public education. I'm not familiar with the entirety of that proposal. That's all. I don't know what the entirety of that budget proposal is, therefore I don't know what I would be voting in favor of.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Mr. Keener.
Yeah, because we haven't finalized that.
That's not ours. That's the state.
It's the state, okay.
Right, and I certainly don't know what all is in there.
Was that in the last, was that added or changed? What's difficult about this is that I
This is
can't tell what was added and changed, so I feel like we're starting from scratch.
Yes,
I made the changes. The only change that was made based on the prior discussion ended up in, let me pull it up here. The second furthermore section, number 1, where it says English language arts program and new funds potentially, I believe it said would be used, and it was changed to could be used. And then the other part that was changed was number 4, which was a direct result of $1 million based, and the change was based on our current enrollment numbers and budget. And I think that was all. Let me just double check one more time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a suggestion, and if there appears to be support, I will turn it into a motion.
Right now,
I'm
we
not
have a
there's-
motion to,
Okay, well, but we can,
yeah, I'm just saying
Yeah,
there is.
thank you. I am generally okay with this. I'm not okay with voting for a budget proposal that I don't know about in its entirety. If we can agree to strike that language with the other changes that the superintendent has made, I would be willing to support this. Otherwise, I'm going to suggest that we table it. So I'm going to make a motion to amend this to strike the language supports the 2025-26 budget proposal as it relates to publication, comma, and strike that, and then it would just say, the Hempfield School District urges the General Assembly.
That's what I was thinking. Thank you, Mr. Keener. I would support that change.
There's a motion. Do we have
Yes.
to vote though? Or-
We either have to vote or we have to withdraw the motion to
Or-
change
You
that.
get-
Or the
the
original
fact that you
people who
can
made
amend
the
it
motion
or
will
withdraw.
go back and
Correct.
accept
Say that-
it.
I can't hear.
So the original people who made the motion would have to go back and accept that, correct?
They could withdraw their motion and their second.
They can if they would
Yeah.
like.
Or you could accept it as a friend.
I'm not withdrawing mine.
Do you accept that as a friendly?
No, is that what not withdrawing means?
So then
No,
we have
those
to
are
go to a
different
vote.
concepts.
If you're not going to withdraw
Go to-
your motion, if the second person that made the
Correct.
second motion isn't going to withdraw theirs,
I'm the
we have to
second.
take it to a vote. Who had the first motion?
Mrs.
I'd
Brady.
rather not-
This is
they do not
Brady
wanna
and this-
All right, then we have to take it to a vote and it either passes or it doesn't.
I think the point of pulling this out and doing it later defeats the purpose. We're missing our window with giving this to the General Assembly. And I made the motion because I support what is there and have done the research, and we all had the chance to do that.
I understand that, but just understand the risk in going to vote with this is that you don't have enough votes to pass this right now.
I
And with
understand.
with the amendment, you likely
Right.
would.
Point of order, Mr. President. We can motion to, if the original movement and seconder are not willing to accept a friendly withdrawal, we can motion to table this and then bring it back at a later time. That way, we don't have to vote it down, and we can make the potential changes and bring it back. So I would motion to table, and I believe that takes precedence.
Can somebody double check that procedure?
Yeah, that wouldn't.
I believe a motion to table takes precedence.
That I don't know.
If you
Yeah.
give me a minute, I will find out. Be right back.
What?
Said if you give me a minute, I will find out.
We can look it up if that's.
I guess I would charge while we're checking on that making that small change does not distract any or detract from this message to our state. And I would suggest that that's going to be a lot more acceptable, at least for me, because I'm with you, Mr. Keener. I'm not going to vote on something that I haven't read in completeness, and I didn't come prepared to vote on approving their or supporting their 25-26 budget proposal related to education. And so I feel like the message is still strong. It says the same exact thing. It just doesn't commit a vote to a proposal that I'm not familiar with. So I would strongly suggest us making the change so this can get pushed through.
That it is, right?
If you want to chat, that's ChatGPT.
For the record, apparently AI agrees with me, but we're not sure that that's definitive.
Rules versus difference.
I'd rather-
knowledge, it does. To my knowledge, it does take precedence, especially under Robert's rules.
I would rather not table this either. However, I'm not willing to vote for it with that portion of it in there.
I'm supportive of most of what this says, and I want to be able to support it, but I'm not gonna vote in favor of something that I don't know about, and
I feel like there was
apologize,
plenty
but
of
I'm not
time to
gonna
learn
vote
about the
against it.
budget. There was plenty of time to learn about the state budget, and I've attended multiple.
If you don't work full time, maybe.
Oh. What? It's okay.
Some of us don't have as much time as others, and whether that hurts or not, it is what it is. I don't have time to read the state budget, so you can ooh and ah all you want.
We determined AI says it takes precedence, but what have you found out?
So a motion to table will take precedence and there is no debate. There needs to be a first and a second, but there can be no discussion on a motion to table. A motion to postpone to another date is another option that can be pursued. That would require first and second. That would require debate and then a vote. Both a motion to table and a motion to postpone to another date does take precedent over an initial motion because it's viewed as a way to pause the situation.
Then I would amend it to a motion to postpone. Up to postpone to the Building and Grounds Finance meeting next.
If there's not going to be a consideration to remove that section, I'm going to second that. So this is the last chance for that to be agreed upon and be removed. And if Mrs. Brady and Mrs. Eshelman, you're unwilling to make that change, then I have no choice but to second Mr. Keener's motion.
Give me a moment, please.
Okay, if I'm understanding everything correctly, that means this has been.
There's no official second, but I do want to reiterate, if we're going down the motion to postpone, which is what I heard.
Build the building is
And
ground
the
and
motion to
finance.
postpone, which takes precedence over the original motion.
And there may, if there
If
is a
there's a
second,
second.
there may be debate, but there must be a vote.
Is there a reason why we couldn't do it Thursday?
Pardon me?
Is there a reason why you couldn't do it Thursday? We have another.
We could do it Thursday as well.
Can I ask for a clarification? You said
I
if
was
there's,
trying to keep it, no.
if there's,
Thursday's fine.
if there's a second to postpone, when does the debate occur?
Right after the second, there would be discussion here to debate it, and then there would have to, a vote. would
Second.
have-
Then I second it. Right?
Okay. And we're, to be clear, we're gonna postpone it. I don't
No,
care. if
wait,
we do
I
it
need to
Thursday,
understand,
we do
sorry.
it at the finance
So-
meeting. What-
And a vote would have to occur now.
No,
There would be discussion first.
That's what I need to know. I'm sorry.
So
Sorry.
if there's a first, if there is a second, there needs to be discussion on a postponement, and then there must be a vote.
to
When?
postpone it.
Right today
The
Just
vote
to
on
postpone it.
to postpone,
Yeah,
and then from there, the decision of that vote supersedes the original motion, and then it will come back at that next date of, that was selected. If there is a motion to table, there is no discussion and an immediate vote, and how it falls, it falls.
Why are we debating this? Can't we just take it out?
Pardon me?
I said, I don't understand why we just can't remove that section that you suggested and move this forward. I don't think this is going to become a debate on Thursday, the same as it is tonight. I don't know what delaying this is going to do. There's still some of us that believe that doesn't belong there because I'm not going to have time to look at that budget between now and Thursday. I don't know how many pages it is, but I know it's long.
Mrs. Brady, you
How
have
about-
for a few
I'm
minutes?
considering.
Oh, okay.
how about now therefore be it resolved that Hempfield School District supports a budget that properly funds public education and urges the General Assembly to pass future budgets,
That's better.
Or
something.
I could throw out a suggestion.
There you go.
This is just a suggestion. If the concern is about the larger, broader state budget, and if you want to focus solely on Hempfield, you could say that the district supports the 25-26 budget proposal as it relates to the Hempfield School District and urges the General Assembly to pass future budgets. Could do that as well.
I don't, can we discuss? Are we discussing, like, can we discuss that suggestion? I'm not sure where that falls in Robert's rules right now.
My motion was not seconded. No one has
So
seconded my
there's-
superseding.
Because we're trying not to table this,
So
so we don't
Ms.
need to.
Yep, Mr. Keener is correct. There was not a second to his motion, so there is still opportunity for discussion
On the original.
on the original.
And I would be happy to make a friendly amendment aligned with what the superintendent just suggested. Changing.
Repeat that one more time for everybody.
Sure. And I'm solely suggesting this from the standpoint of everything that's in here does pertain to us as a district. And so it does all encompass public education. And I do believe that in Harrisburg, they need to look at how they're funding public education. So that is what is there, the budget proposal that the governor set related to public education across the state. If the concern is because of that line, the board could consider changing as it relates to public education, as it relates to Hempfield or the Hempfield School District, you'll repeat it. It was in, the previous phrase above, but that solely aligns it to Hempfield and not the broader aspect of public education. If there's a desire to focus on the broader aspect of public education, then you would leave it as is.
Would that contradict anything in our ask? So we're asking to make adjustments.
But that,
I'm
no, I
I'm just
know what
asking a
you're saying.
question.
I'm looking that right now, if the budget passed the way it was written, we would get, like, for special education funding, we get another 152
But
in
we're-
addition.
But we're also asking for cyber reform and some of that other stuff.
There's some other aspects in there that are
Wait, what is
broader,
it?
that aren't necessarily identified in terms of dollar values or what additional we would receive.
So you think it would line up the same? It would say the message we're trying to say.
Specific to Hempfield, I think.
I still go back to Mr. Keener's point. It doesn't take anything away from this message if you just remove the 25-26 budget proposal portion and you move right to Hempfield School District urges the General Assembly to pass future budgets that guarantee a thorough and efficient system of public education. It covers our message. I think we're splitting hairs here to some degree, and I'm probably part of that. But I agree with you, Mr. Keener. I'm not in favor of voting on something I haven't had time to thoroughly read. And that's just a principle I stand by, and I'm not going to vote for this with that in there.
I think I'd prefer to not withdraw my motion because I feel like we've talked about this for a number of months now, since January when the governor put out his proposed budget. There has been opportunity to discuss it. This was out a month ago. There was time to discuss that language then. This was put in our board notes on Friday. We could have discussed it then. I think there's time to do that research if it's important to do it. And so I will keep my.
Just as a point of clarity, this is only the second time we've seen this, and this is the first time we've seen it since we asked for the revisions to be made. And so, no, there hasn't been a lot of time to look at this. And this is something that, if that's the case and that's our final decision, then I'm going to go ahead and close the discussion because I'm going to second Mr. Keener's motion.
Mr. Peter, do you want to say your motion to postpone it, or are we postponing it to the finance, buildings and grounds, or to Thursday?
Okay. I will motion to postpone until at the discretion of the administration, either Thursday's
Education policy.
yes, or the following finance meeting. I don't know that we need to decide which one right now. I'm happy to leave that to the administration.
Mr. Wagomuth, your
I'll second that motion.
Okay, discussion? And I believe if I understand correctly, we have to vote upon.
Must vote on it.
All those in favor?
Of postponement.
A postponement,
Postpone it till,
just to postpone.
In favor.
okay. Opposed? I believe it's 6-3 carry, so it'll be postponed to discretion either to this Thursday or the meeting at the end of.
And we'll leave it up to the judgment of the administration.
Okay. And I believe there's one other.
It's the Lebanon, Lancaster Lebanon Joint Authority Resolution.
Need a motion to approve that, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion, questions? Okay, all those in favor?
In favor.
Motion carries 9-0. Mr. Barris,
You just say it.
motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Pat.
And Mr. Wagner has second. All those in favor?
In favor.
Motion carries 9-0.
We going to exec session?
No, we're,
We talked about.
yeah. Thank you.
Good night.